Hi, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Our devotion for today, February 17th, 2021, Ash Wednesday, is from the Gospel of Luke, the 18th chapter, verses 9 through 14. Verse 9, he also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and treated others with contempt. Well, on this Ash Wednesday, we have this lesson from the Gospel of Luke, which I think is quite appropriate, told by Jesus to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous, and as a result, treating others with contempt because they had such a high opinion of themselves and their own righteousness. Verse 10, 2 men went up into the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. All right. So in this verse, we have a dramatic contrast between the 2 men who are entering the temple to pray. One a Pharisee, whom we are to assume kept strict observance of the law and performed all the sacrifices that were necessary and attended all the appropriate worship services and kept company only with other godly men. And then we have this tax collector, despised by all righteous people, and even despised by unrighteous people, who may have cheated those whom they collected taxes from, basically stealing from people with the authority and power of the Roman government to protect them. Verse 11 and 12, the Pharisee, standing by himself, prayed thus, God, I thank you that I'm not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I get. So the Pharisee prays a thanksgiving to God that he's not like other men, and then lists those he considers to be beneath him and considers to be other men. Extortioners, the unjust, adulterers, and then he even mentions the tax collector who's praying in the temple at that moment with him. Then the Pharisee lifts up all the works that he does to show that he is better than these others that he's named. He fasts twice a week and he gives tithes of all that he has. It is his works in which he trusts to make him righteous and better than those others. It is his works that he relies on to curry favor with God and to save him. Verse 13, but the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift his eyes to heaven and beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. So the tax collector, on the other hand, standing farther off in the temple and farther off from the Pharisee, unable to even look up into the heavens inside the temple because of the shame that he felt, beating his chest as a sign of his guilt and remorse, simply says, God be merciful to me, a sinner. He recognizes his own guilt and his own inability to make up for his sins. He finds no righteousness in himself, but relies solely upon the mercy and grace of God. He knows his salvation is dependent upon God alone. Verse 14. I tell you, Jesus says, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted. So Jesus says that to all those who are listening, including some Pharisees, that it was the tax collector who returned home justified rather than the Pharisee. Jesus tells them everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and those who humble themselves are going to be exalted. Needless to say, the Pharisees didn't like this parable at all. It made them angry. So, how does it strike you on this Ash Wednesday? How does it strike you that you are basically helpless to save yourself from your sin and sinful ways? That there is no work that you can do, no good deed you can do to make yourself righteous in the sight of God? That your entire salvation depends upon the mercy and grace of God alone. Isn't it wonderful that God provides mercy and grace through his Son, Jesus Christ, who died on the cross to forgive you of all of your sins and make you righteous by his blood? Go in peace. Serve the Lord.